Thanks for joining, everyone. I think we're just going to give it another minute or two, see if folks are still filtering in. I think Carlos is traveling, and I heard that Rob might be running this one, so we'll just wait a few more minutes.
Hello. Oh, Rob was collecting items, so I guess he will join.
I just shared a link to the running notes document that's attached here. Rob, I think you're going to run this. Is that right?
Yep. Let's give it one more minute.
Okay. Just, if I could just have a couple minutes at the beginning and go over a couple things, and then you can take it from there.
Sounds good. Alrighty. Go ahead. Kick it off.
Great. Well, hey, everyone, thanks for joining again. My name is Pete with the Open Source Program Office, and I just wanted to provide a couple of quick community updates before we kick it off. Just a reminder for everyone, there is a code of conduct, and being part of this community means you're going to abide by the code of conduct. Links are there. If you're not in the Slack, please join the Slack. That's where a lot of the conversations are happening, and we are sharing a lot of the call artifacts in Slack afterwards. And to get access to the call artifacts, join the llm-d contributors Google group. That will allow you to be able to view all of the artifacts. We do share them to that group afterwards when they're available. We are still working on getting access to a separate workspace for llm-d in Google that will allow us to share files out so everyone can read them and you don't even need the access. We're still working on that. It's going to take a little time, so definitely bear with us there. And then lastly, just want to point out a couple of new Slack channels. We're starting to work more on improving the llm-d public website, including project documentation and synchronizing the docs that are in GitHub over to the public site. Feel free to join that if you have any interest in contributing or helping. And we also have a marketing channel. If you want to share any llm-d use cases, your story, other content, a demo, or just interesting ways in which you're using it, feel free to drop it in there. There's a form you can fill out if you want to just have something shared. If you have a blog on your site, we're working on being able to actually just mirror that over to the llm-d site, but have you be the canonical. So for SEO, you still win from there. And then finally, we did get a YouTube channel created for llm-d project. We'll be publishing the meetings there to make it much easier to view after the meetings are over, all the SIG meetings and community meetings, as well as if there's other demo content that folks want to share, we can get that up there. Just reach out to us on the community channel. That's all I've got for here. So Rob, I'll pass it back to you.
Sounds good. Thanks. So as always, we'll now open it up to open forum. Are there any topics folks want to cover? And then we can dive into the various SIGs and some of the folks involved with each one of those can give high level updates, and obviously we can go into more detail in certain areas if needed. But I'll start with open floor. Does anyone have any topics they want to cover today?
Yes, I have one topic. It's a question, what do we do with proposals that haven't been triaged yet, right? So meaning that they are not owned yet by a SIG or multiple SIGs.
Could you talk a little bit about, is there one in particular, just a concrete,
Yeah, the model caching one.
A model caching?
Yeah.
Are you thinking specifically about the kind of startup time item?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I think in general, overall changes. So I'm just going to take a note. Lionel, let's see. How can we triage new SIGs / areas? For example, let's see, startup times for model caching, etc. So I think that in general, and Clayton, you should feel free to speak up as well. I think that oh, sorry, did you have something you wanted to say? Oh, okay, all right. I think that to major kind of separation for major overall changes to the scope of the project, we have this proposal.md, kind of centralized, proposal that is defining like what we currently see as in or out of scope for the overall feature set that we have. And so I think that for something that's as high of a level of like, hey, we need a whole nother user story, or we need a whole nother kind of change in direction of the project, a place like that makes a lot of sense. Or, a Google Doc that aligns to that, I think makes a lot of sense as a way to, make proposals that change the overarching scope of the project. As I look at something like startup times, though, like in this specific instance, I find that we have a lot of SIGs at this point, and this topic in particular seems like it fits pretty well underneath the auto scaling, kind of SIG that we have, kind of now. And so my suggestion would be that, to the extent that individual features can fit within one of the existing kind of SIGs that we have, that we try to keep things, into those buckets, just so we don't spread ourselves too thin. But obviously, I think there's kind of a fine line between that. And so I think we'll need to take it on a case-by-case basis. But that's at least how I sort of, I think we should go about it, is like, to the extent we want to really change the scope of the project, like that's why we have the proposal.md. And, that's, I think, where we should recommend changes for that. But, if we can fit individual features into the existing SIGs, I think that that will make things a lot easier for us to kind of manage things. And I think in this case, the model caching, items fit pretty well into the auto scaling subgroup. But yeah, Clayton, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I'd agree with that. And the project structure kind of says, do you want to expand the scope? Come up with a proposal, and that can be a PR, that can be a doc. Docs help. And I think, Rob, you just added something that's pretty important, which is like the first question we should ask is, it isn't in scope. And we should ask, will adding it to our scope cause other things to become more challenging, right? Like the most important thing early in a project's life is only doing the things that are really important and deferring all the kind of important things to a little bit later, or finding ways to parallelize that. We have a way to parallelize things, which is the incubation process. But anytime you need to change something in the core, obviously, like that falls into that prioritization. I think the third one is, does anybody else do this? Is attempting to do this better than us? So like for model caching in particular, like I agree with Rob, I think it's in working group serving, we said auto scaling is important in Cube, and then we said for LLMs, and then we said there's a bunch of people doing a bunch of different model things and nobody could really agree on what they want. We started this project as a way to like really concretely make progress on that. Model caching is a distribution and caching problem. So it's a distributed system problem, so it kind of fits into the project scope. It's not specifically called out, but I agree with Rob, it like kind of fits under auto scaling, to avoid creating a new SIG. And then the next question is, can it be done in a way that, is mostly decoupled from the rest of execution? And I think the answer to that is probably yes. So I think that's like a good way of like breaking the problem down and saying this proposal makes total sense under SIG auto scaling, and we just can we do it without really having to couple tightly to a bunch of the P0, P1 things that we already have, so that people can execute in parallel? And the answer to that's probably yeah. The next step, I guess, would just be getting folks involved in that part of the project to review. And then if you did want to start something experimental, we'd go through the incubation process. That might be a good candidate for something like this. Just totally on the side, there's a bunch of Googlers who work on aspects of this, like the folks working on making sure the Run AI streamer works great on GCP. And they also care about making it work well in Kubernetes. So I think there's others that we could connect into that effort as long as they know that it exists.
Any other follow-ups on this one?
Well, Mike also has his raised.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you kind of put words in Leonel's mouth, or kind of skipped a step, right? At least my understanding or my version of his question is, what if you don't know whether this is an expansion of scope or fits into one SIG or fits into multiple SIGs. What do you do with that idea? What's the process for working out? You just did some discussion, and I think his question was, how do we have that discussion what's the regular process for initiating and having those discussions? Also, for example, this particular example, I was also asking the SIG model service people about why they call themselves model service instead of engine service. And the answer was, well, they're concerned with model caching too.
Yeah, I agree. So, Mike, thank you for saying this. It's also, so in this particular proposal, there's also an aspect of UX. And I have the feeling that the SIG model service is probably the right place also for this. I mean, both places, autoscaling because of the feature of accelerating, the actuator. But there's also the UX aspect. And I also wonder if maybe the SIG model service should be renamed like SIG UX, right? To have the concern about UX in general.
So I'll respond to Mike's question first. Mike, that's a good point. We don't call that out in the project MD. I'll make a proposal. I would probably say find people within a SIG. So discuss it with people within a SIG and find someone who's interested, which means ask questions, open an issue, and we can maybe review some of that suggestion. And then bringing it up in the community meeting, I think, is totally reasonable if those other two forums don't get a response. That's worked in other projects. So I think that's totally consistent here. On the model service rename, I think that would be covered by the model service scoping proposal, which is, we kind of worked backwards from the fact that there was already a group there. We didn't have a proposal for model service at the time of launch. So that's the exception. So I agree, like the naming of the SIG probably needs to be updated based on the kinds of things that you raise. New SIGs, we actually probably should discuss SIG formation in the project MD. So Rob, that's something I'll take a to-do on. And I think for SIG formation, it would be finding like that fits all the project scope criteria. So I think when we open some of those PRs, that'd be a good time to just get additional comments and ask some of those test questions again to make sure that we've answered those. Those seem like reasonable processes in the first place, like Slack, issue, discuss within SIGs, addition for a process for a new SIG, and then how to, be annoying is always an important part of open source. So don't be afraid to keep asking if you don't get an answer. And the community meeting is a totally valid forum for that.
Anything else, Mike, you want to cover on this? Does that seem like a reasonable set of next steps?
I got my answer. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Lionel, you want to cover on this? Like, do you feel like you have a clear next step for the model caching proposal, or okay?
Absolutely. Oh, good. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks. Okay. Is there any other open forum topics people want to cover? Otherwise, any other ad hoc topics? Nope. Okay. All right. Maybe we can dive into some of the various like SIG updates. I don't know. Is Greg or Greg, do you want to give the update on what's going on with SIG installation right now?
Yeah, I don't think there are any major changes. We were in the process of trying to get our first real meeting set up, which will be next Thursday at 11 a.m. EST. I think some small changes have gone on in the background, like swapping the default for gateway from K-gateway to Istio, and some other like UX changes around like compatibility for specifying those gateway choices that you want to make. Yeah. We hope to look into swapping to the upstream gateway charts sometime this next week.
Sounds good to me. I believe there was potentially like a North Star doc that was being created for this. Do you happen to have that?
Yeah, let me grab it. I'll drop it in the notes.
Cool. All right. That'd be great. And then for folks to have a reference to it, North Star doc created, new SIG created. the overall like reasoning behind this new SIG getting created is to address some of the like early feedback that we got from the various users. In particular, I think our initial installation process like worked really nicely for folks to get up and get started. But because we kind of have a coupled installation of the installer or of the deployment of the model with the actual installation of the components, it doesn't highlight the really like modularity of llm-d and as much. And so these are some of the items that the North Star is seeking to address. So please, if you're interested in getting involved, join the Slack, and then the North Star doc is the place where we're starting to debate what things should look like. Abdullah, do you want to give update on Inference Scheduler or Vita? Either would work. Yeah.
Abdullah can go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to note that we've scheduled the weekly meeting right after this one, conveniently. So it's 10 a.m. PST Wednesdays. I can post here the
agenda.
The agenda. Take a look. Multiple items being discussed and parallel, lots of activity. But the overall, like we're converging more and more into an architecture that is based on the extensibility work that we've been doing in upstream. That's going to make the llm-d scheduler a lot leaner and focused on the business logic of llm-d itself. So that's the first milestone that we're trying to get to. And then we will have a much easier, process for innovation and iteration, faster feedback, right? Like outside upstream inference gateway. Vita, if you want to add anything as well.
No, I think we will a lot of progress in both the scheduler part and configuration flow control. We will, I think, if you guys are interested, you can join the meeting in the next 15 minutes and also see the documents linked in the agenda.
Sounds good. Does anyone have any particular questions about Inference Scheduler from the group? All right, Vita, do you want to cover KV disaggregation? I know there's
there is a KV disaggregation. There is some we still work to update the North Star, but we made the progress with north-south implementation of just GPU CPU, both the documents that covers it and initial PRs and VLLM. There are all information is in Slack channel of KV disaggregation, so anyone is welcome to review, provide feedback and your thoughts. And also the important part about the indexing, which actually makes implementation based on KV events and the indexing that is independent, that makes independent of Redis and the LM cache to be optional. This document is also there, the design document, and the initial PRs are there as well. So anyone is welcome to review it and provide feedback. Our goal is to have end-to-end solution, a simple one out of the box that uses KV events. It's also connected a bit with Inference Scheduler because we are viewing the KV aware scorer and prefix scorer to be sort of merged to the logic of prefix scorer and make the index part optional, but that's still to be designed. So if you are interested in any of this, and we schedule the community meeting for this SIG next Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific. I don't know if Pete already sent the invite, but that's what we are going to have.
Yeah, we actually I just created that invite right now. So
Okay.
if you could just, I'll put it into the Slack, but just let me know which team members should have the right access to the notes file. And
Okay. Thank you.
Sounds good. Any other thoughts on KDV disaggregation folks want to mention? Alrighty. Maybe I can dive into PD disaggregation. A couple things. We have weeklies on Thursdays on this topic. In addition to this, a couple things have been done. We've finalized the KV transfer protocol design is done. I'll post a link to this in a bit. And we have some active PRs in VLLM to start implementing this. Next is we've been looking at multi-node MOE models. There's been a lot of progress on the VLLM side, related to integration of dispatch combine. Patch/combine. We've started to support B200 in this as well. And yeah, this is where a lot of effort has been going on the VLLM side to make this more performant. So we've been pushing forward, for the last several weeks, and the light is very much at the end of the tunnel. So we'll hope to kind of have, we do currently have a full working implementation of multi-node MOE with PD disaggregation, currently focused on the performance of things, inside of VLM. For single node PD, where we have, each replica of VLM as a single node, this is currently working, and working on some benchmarking of this. In doing some more detailed benchmarks yesterday, I ran into a few kind of interesting performance things tied into some of the random access patterns that we see in the VLM block tables. So been working with the Nixle team on some of these things in the background over the course of the past couple of days. This is the update on PD disaggregation. A lot of focus on performance right now. Clayton, yeah.
How much of this, Rob, is stuff that others in VLLM would hit, and how much is specific to just the way we're configuring it? I assume it's mostly VLLM.
It's this, all the items that I've listed here are all just pure VLLM related things. Yeah, it's nothing specific that we're doing. I'd say the only thing I would say is one of the current things with the RDMA based setups that we have now is we're sending the data directly from the VLM block table, right? And so this gives you a random access pattern for the reads, right? And so another design that you could do is, instead of sending directly from the block tables, is to copy and then into a more contiguous buffer and then send from there. So anyways, but this is something that is a VLM thing as opposed to something that we're doing inside of llm-d. And then the other thing that's going on is there's been a few things kicked off for TCP-based transport. So a couple of PRs on the VLM side are implementing this right now. All right. Is anyone on who's been focusing on model service? Is Shri on?
No, I think Shri and Carlos are traveling, Rob.
Okay.
Yeah, Shri's traveling today, so.
Okay. So we can skip this one for now. And then, Mar, do you want to do the auto-scaling one?
Yes. So for SIG autoscaling, we have meetings weekly in 1 hour, actually. So it's Monday, 2 p.m. EST, 11 PST. And right now, there are 2 different design documents that are being circulated in the community, and we're collecting everyone's comments. I think there is a sort of a philosophical disagreement here about the approach, which we need to resolve. One document, which is championed by John, Kaushik, and Ben, is proposing a particular approach that is coupling together an optimizer that gives scheduling hints as well as autoscaling. So it's a particular approach that actually came from the Melange paper. And the other design document is championed by Abhishek, Aser, and Evgeny. And this one is proposing an auto scaling framework where everyone can plug in their algorithm to experiment quickly with different algorithms. We also have an implementation that is based on queuing theory and the multiple integer linear programming approach. So that's aside, but the question is, do we want an auto-scaling framework where people can plug in their algorithm and experiment quickly with what works or what not, given that it's relatively early and we don't know what's going to work for what use case? Or do we want to just go with, it's this or that and things like that? So I think we just need to go through the process of reviewing and discussing and getting into an agreement.
Sounds good. Could you post the links to those docs in here?
Yeah.
Someone have a hand up, Clayton? Yeah.
So one of the things that I was, as Tamar was mentioning it, and I was reviewing, is we need to set actual project goals for what we're trying to achieve there. So I think we want to revise the next phase of the roadmap. Currently, autoscaler is P3, very lonely down at the end, but we obviously think it's important we're putting resources on it. We have a very vague statement in the roadmap. I think what we should do is try to set a concrete objective that's time limited, that has like an element of we get something from this. That'll help, because the implementation that we have right now in incubation can be used by anyone. What is the project actually going to provide guarantee that fits into the larger structure is kind of, I think, the heart of the question. So we need to set a deliverable that's users get this benefit and be really concrete in the roadmap. I think that'll help. So maybe that's something, I don't know, Rob, if you're thinking of doing a roadmap V2.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially as we're starting to like finalize a lot of the proposals across the key work streams. I think we can take another crack at that. Roadmap V2. I think that makes a lot of sense. Roadmap V2. Cool. All right. We're up to 2 minutes left. Is there anything else folks want to mention or cover in this session? All righty. Thanks for the time, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Bye-bye. Bye.